At this point, the activity that you're about to do is on text and VLOOKUP functions. We'll be using a workbook called Activity on Text and VLOOKUP Functions. And this workbook will contain several sheets that includes the instructions as well as the actual activities. And for the requirement, you need to upload a total of 6 files. That would include screenshots as well as the actual worksheet or workbook. So the first thing that you need to do is to download the activity workbook, okay, and follow the instructions inside. So it's a self-contained activity, and then eventually for uploads, you need to take a screenshot of all 5 worksheets. The 5 worksheets that represents the following: your text function exercise 1, this is a sample screenshot, and text function exercise 2, plus the 3 VLOOKUP exercises worksheets. So each worksheet will be screenshot and uploaded. And then the final workbook, the updated workbook with your name added, will be also uploaded. And then finally, in the comment section, for reflection portion, think of a real-world application of text and VLOOKUP functions in your line of work, interest or course, and describe how it can be of help to you. So bottom line is, we all have to do whatever's inside the activity sheet or the activity workbook. So when you click on this one and start downloading, you end up with a particular option, okay, to show in folder or open the file. So basically, if you know where the folder goes into or the file goes into, just click on open. So this is now enabling editing, and this is now the actual instruction sheet. It contains your welcome line as well as the major steps that you need to do. So there are FYI sheets that you need to review before doing the exercises. Very important because that's the lesson part. Then complete all exercise sheets as requested. Change all completed answered cell backgrounds to light green if in case they're not, so to differentiate it from the actual text or instruction. So insert your picture name in all worksheets. So please be reminded that this is being done to show ownership, okay, so that you can protect yourselves, your work, okay, although it can be edited, but at least give them some difficulty. Zoom out and take a screenshot of all completed worksheets for uploading, and then rename the file by adding your name, then upload it as instructed. Now, this particular activity workbook is courtesy of Chris Jamignani. Okay, so let's now move on to the second worksheet. So this is the FYI part. So in the first part, since we're in the functions, okay, particularly in this case text functions of Excel, it actually shows you some examples of functions that you can use. For example, you have the right function, you have the left function, and you have the mid function. And basically, this allows you to get certain text within a cell that contains text by issuing the right formula. Okay, in this case, for example, for Bill Clinton, which is in B9, when you actually issue equals right, B9, 4, B9 is the actual cell of Bill Clinton, and 4 represents the number of characters, okay, from the right side of the text. So it means that in this case, from the right side of the text, this is your right side, okay? So N is 1, O is 2, T is 3, and another N is 4. So meaning, in Bill Clinton, you'll get NTON from the right, okay? 4 characters from the right. So following the same concept, left now becomes 4 characters from the left. So B-I-L-L. So that's Bill, the result. So in fact, when you double click this, that's how the formula went. Okay. So that's basically the sample cases. Now mid, on the other hand, allows you to get something in the middle of the text. Okay. So you can also use the find, okay, function so that you can be able to find where a certain character is in a particular character or text. Okay. So in this case, you're finding for a space. so that from that particular space, okay, you're supposed to be getting some information. Okay. Now, another thing that you need to take note is the use of a concatenation character called text ampersand text2. So particularly the concatenation character here is the ampersand. Okay. So if you look at this example, notice that BI31 is actually the text where your other text will be added. So the other text is enclosed in double quotes. So basically, you can also add spaces, okay, before and after the end or the concatenation symbol so that you can distinguish what is being added. Okay, so BI31 and this whole text. So anything inside the double quote is added, okay, to the existing cell, which is also a text. So you can only add text with text. Otherwise, if you add a number, a cell with a number, with a text, it will give you an error, an invalid value. So when you press enter, this becomes your text. So Bill Clinton was a US president. Okay, so that was the text. So including the space in between or after the double quote, the first double quote. So that was used to separate Bill Clinton from the rest of the text. Now, again, we have another text function called find. We can find a certain value or a character inside the text using the find function. Now, this is an example. So, this, for example, this formula finds the letter N, okay, in B39, which is the entire text for Bill Clinton. And then, at this point, the starting position for where it would have to find is also stated, meaning on the 10th character, that's where you will have to start looking for the letter N. Because there are 2 N's in Bill Clinton, right? So, the final answer to this is 12. Okay? So, notice that what happens is, okay, if it fails to return a value. So, if it fails to return a value, meaning there's no equivalent, like there's no X in Bill Clinton. So, when you press enter, it says hashtag value. So, it simply means it's not an error. It simply means that it cannot find that value. Okay? So, those are the examples of text functions that you'll be using, but there are other text functions available. And as we have said, we cannot actually go over all this text. There are so many. It probably will be informative on your part if you only need them, or most probably when you're at work. So, another type of worksheet that you'll be working on is the actual exercise sheets, where you will now have to use the functions you've learned from the FYI. Okay? So, by supplying the functions for column 1 based on this particular requirement, for column 2 based on this particular requirement, for column 3 based on this particular requirement. Now, take note that all of those have been discussed in the FYI portion. So you can get clues there. Now, finally, I know that some of you might say, there's answers below, okay, which you can look for. There are answers on the other parts of the worksheet. But please do yourself a favor. Try to study or try to attempt creating your own formulas first before you actually surrender to the answers below. Okay? So, give yourselves a challenge. So, the same way with text functions in exercise 2. Now, the next part is on VLOOKUP. This is another most useful, if not the very useful, the most very useful function, most not very pa, function that you can have in Excel. It's called VLOOKUP. Okay? So what does this mean? It actually takes a particular value and looks it up on a search table or table array. And then if there is an equivalent, like Bal here is found on this particular row, you will have to get the equivalent value, which is on the second row, second column. So this is column 1 of the search table. This is also column 2. in some cases, you'll have several columns of other information. So which column would you like to get the answers or equivalent from? So if this is column 1, this is column 2, then obviously you might want to get column 2 and outputs. So this is what VLOOKUP looks like, okay? And in the requirement, in the exercise requirement, it says here, okay, find the corresponding conference each player is in. So you only have to do the first formula and then copy it to the rest, assuming that your formula is correct. Now, if you would like to look at an example, then most probably, okay, you might want to start with an equal sign and then type VLOOKUP, and automatically you'll have this help. Once you click on that help, okay, you will be able to double click on it. You'll be able to supply the necessary value. So VLOOKUP value is the value that you're looking for. So for example, you're looking for the player, okay? So, and in what conference did that player played in? So in this case, the player is, okay, find the corresponding conference player, find the corresponding conference each player is in. So VLOOKUP, so if you would notice, you have here a team, okay? You have column 1 is team and column 2 is conference. So I believe conference would be our output. So we are looking for, okay, the team. So find the corresponding conference each team player is in. We're not particular with the name, but we would like to get the team instead. Okay? So for example, Moss is on team WAS. Okay? So that would mean we would like to look for WAS in the table that we have. So to start the next table, the next part, which is the table array, you just have to press a comma sign. Okay? Press the comma sign. And then you need to identify the table array. The table array represents the entire data that you have minus the headings. So you'll need to highlight all the data in your table. And then take note that when you copy this formula to the rest of the other cells, okay, remember the lecture on absolute and relative addressing, that when you copy a cell, a formula, okay, from a cell, all cells will change if they are relatively addressed. But if the address is absolute or fixed with a $sign, that particular value or set of cells do not change. So in here, we want to make sure that the table doesn't change. It's always this table that we're referring to. So to make it shorter, we can highlight all of this table declaration and press F4. Or in short, put a $. Okay? Make the table absolute. So highlight, press F4. And then finally, press a comma. We want to know where the output, where we will get the output. So again, I lost that part, so let me highlight it again. Okay? Press F4 and then press comma. Now, we would like to know where the output will be coming from. So obviously, the data we're searching, we search it from in column 1, but we want the output that's represented by column 2. So it's just an index number, so we say 2. Okay? And from there, there's an option, okay, to put a range lookup, but that could be ignored already. So in short, you can put a close parenthesis on this one to end the VLOOKUP function. Once you press enter key, you now have national as Moss's conference. Okay? Now, the good thing about this is you can copy this. You can click on the drag data fill option and drag it all the way down and get the rest of the information automatically. Now, please remember that we've used the $ symbol to represent absolute addressing, so that when we copy the formula, what is fixed or absolute becomes absolute. So In the other VLOOKUP exercises, you might also apply the same technique.